Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. Before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, come kick it with us already. Subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials in the show notes of this episode. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
Feeling all right, man. We've made it to the end of 2024. And although anybody would be right to have a sense of dread of what's coming in the new year in terms of defending human rights and fighting for any kind of real world that's worth inhabiting, the football's good. So maybe I shouldn't just start off with a huge downer like that, and maybe we could just laugh together and talk about football and maybe not worry about some of that other stuff for like roughly 40 to 50 minutes.
I like it. Yeah, enough looking forward. Let's look back at 2024 and the year that was. But before that, quick programming reminder, we'll be back later in January with a lot of European football coverage. We're also going to have some special guests joining the show. And then February 7th, we'll be live on YouTube after the UEFA Women's Champions League quarterfinals draw. So be sure that you are subscribed for that. We're going to have a lot of fun there. But let's get into it. We're going to talk about our 2024 Best 11. We're going to do a little bit of a modified draft. We're going to go back to front. We're going to draft our units. And then we're going to try to come together like Voltron and put forward an ITC Best 11 for 2024.
I love it. And for anybody who's been palling around with us the last year, you may recall that last format, Dino and I drafted our teams. I may have got my wires crossed during the draft, had to kind of refigure my lineup on the fly. And I lost convincingly in a Twitter poll when people had to choose between Dino's lineup and my lineup. But don't you worry, vindication will be here soon.
Let's see. I think you're slightly more prepared this year. You're clearly taking this exercise a little bit more seriously. But it doesn't matter. I've got my game face on. I got some sleep last night. I'm ready to go. Mr. Grant Engel, where do you want to get started?
All right, let's get started by cracking some celebratory beverages because we made it through 2024, buddy.
I like it.
Sounds delicious. Cheers to you.
Cheers to 24. Cheers to you.
So, do you have a preference on what position group we start with? I feel like back to front would make sense, but also, the people who score goals are up front. I think there's a case to start there. Up to you, though.
I like it. Let's go front to back. Okay. A little bit of a curveball. I see what you're trying to do here. I'm not gonna jot that little maneuver in the ITC personal record book. We'll just kind of keep it moving. I'll also kick it to you with the first pick in the 2024 Best 11 draft.
Wow.
Now, as a reminder, we're going to go with the forwards. So you can pick any position, you can pick any player in that front three. Oh, and then quick note for the audience. In our pre-show quick powwow, we both landed on a 3-4-3.
Mm-hmm.
The minds have melded. Let's kick it off.
All right. So I appreciate you giving me the grace of allowing me to make the first pick. This is not done out of spite. I believe it is the right pick. I believe it is the only pick to make for the most credible Best 11 that you could possibly make. At striker, it has to be Barbara Banda. There's no other player you could take here.
Love it. Totally agree.
So there are multiple amazing center forwards and number 9s in the world, whatever you want to call this striker position. And as far as I know, I'm the only person in the history of sports podcasting to say that these decisions are always very close. I think I've owned that opinion. I don't like to say it's her and it's not close. However, like I said it before, I don't think you can make a credible Best 11 for 2024 without Banda as your number 9. She only scored 13 goals for your Orlando Pride in 2024, but her presence immediately catapulted them to league favorites, and that played itself out to the tune of the Pride winning the double in the world's most competitive league. They win the NWSL Championship and the NWSL Shield. She has the game-winning goal in the NWSL Championship and was named MVP of that match. She was number 1 in goal-creating actions. She was number 1 in carries into the penalty. She was number 2 in progressive carries. She was number 4 in shot-creating actions. She had a credible case, despite, I don't think, appearing in the first 5 matches of the season, to be the NWSL MVP.
Yeah, I totally agree with all that. She would have been my Sharpie starter at that position too. She also makes the NWSL Team of the Year. She wins all the trophies. Can't forget about 4 goals in 3 Olympics matches for Zambia as well.
I'm glad you mentioned international play because that obviously has to have a factor in here. Let's travel back in time, back to early April, with a spot to the Olympic tournament on the line, down 2-1 on aggregate. Banda leads the Copper Queens of Zambia into Morocco, scores a goal in the 38th minute to bring the Copper Queens level, and then later converts a penalty in extra time to seal the deal, pushing Zambia into the Olympics. That has to count for something when you're thinking about your team of the year for the best 11. Love and respect to all the players from Morocco, but even just on the strength of that, Benda would be in my best 11 for getting that fucking bozo Jorge Vilda out of here so I didn't have to look at his stupid face during the Olympics.
Adios, Jorge. Total cosign. I'm going to drop a player on the left side here. Give me NWSL MVP Temo Chawinga.
Yep.
So wins the Golden Boot, 20 goals, 5 assists, carries Casey into the playoffs. Excellent player. I mean, she burst onto the scene maybe with more pomp and circumstance than Banda. Like, I think she had a more kind of like explosive introduction to the league.
Sure.
And she carried it through all season. She takes on the MVP, obviously NWSL Team of the Year. Give me Temo Chawinga on the left.
Absolutely. Golden Boot winner. Number 1 in shots on target and total shots. Number 2 in shot creating actions and carries into the penalty. Just outside the top 10 in blocks as well. Just getting it done on both ends of the field. The Kansas City Current were second to last in the league in 2023. They made a lot of changes and they made a lot of good personnel moves. But Temo Chawinga was the straw that stirs the drink. So I'm absolutely with you on that. I will draft right wing. And I don't think there's any other player here to take other than Carolina Graham Hansen. She has a legitimate argument to be the best active player in the world right now. Already in this young season, she has 7 goals and 6 assists in Liga F. She added another 3 goals and 1 assist in the Champions League. I think if you go back, this is the fun part about these like teams of the year, because in European football, now I'm looking at what did you do the second half of last season and what are you doing in the first half of this season?
Yep.
16 of her 27 Liga F goals, Liga F and Champions League goals came after January 1st in that first half. So did 11 of her 23 assists. And I know, we're not counting all of last season because some of it was played in 2023, but I just want to give a couple of quick metrics from the 23-24 Liga F campaign that were my favorites. 18 expected assisted goals throughout the course of the Liga F season. Number 2 is Aitana Bonmatí with 7.7. So more than 10 more. She led the league in key passes with 85. Number 2 was her teammate at the time, Mariona Caldente, with 58. So she had roughly, 17 more throughout the season. She is a hurricane of good football decisions. And like I said, she has a claim to be the best player in the world, fighting it out with a couple of her teammates.
Love it. Yeah, no argument there. She was also third on my forward list on my big board. So I'm gonna switch things up here. I'm gonna take the player that I had 5th on my board. Give me Khadija Bunny Shaw.
Look at you.
Monster season in the WSL per 90. How about 1.16 goals?
There we go.
Sure. It's just like you just roll the ball out and you're already up 1.16 to 0 if Bunny Shaw's on your team. Unbelievable. They come within a whisker of winning the WSL title. She can score every type of way. She's an absolute killer. Plays for Jamaica internationally, so there's a ceiling there. But when she does play, obviously her presence is absolutely felt. And then for that City side, you really just can't overstate her importance to that team.
No doubt. I think they win the title if she's healthy throughout the entire season last year. Mm-hmm. She is an offense unto herself. And I think you and I noticed she looks faster than she had before. So she's clearly adding things to her game as well.
Yeah, she's kind of like leaned out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think she was kind of coming back from an injury 23 World Cup for Jamaica. But now, I don't know, she's very lean and mean. Looks a little bit like Katoto out there.
Yeah.
And like I said, she can score any kind of way.
100%. And she will. And she will continue to do that to score any kind of way. All right. So that means it's my turn to pick a left wing. My number 1 choice for left wing was Temo Chawinga. Also, we were aligned there. My second choice is going to be Tabitha Chawinga because 2024 as an entire year has been a banner year for Tabitha Chawinga. So from her time at the end of last season for Paris Saint-Germain and now playing for Lyon, across all competitions, if my stats are right and I'm looking at this correctly, she has 23 goals and 14 assists in the calendar year of 2024. She was an absolute spark plug for PSG, pushing them farther than I think some people thought they might go in last year's UEFA Women's Champions League. And now she's moving in that direction for Lyon. It was a real decision for me to try to decide because, I talk about 23 goals and 14 assists. Her sister had 20 and 5 in the NWSL. It was a real decision for me to kind of choose between the two, but I do think the fact that Temois, was just propelling Kansas City into absolute contenders had me give Temois the nod. But I think for any list that would have Tabitha Chawinga as their starting left wing, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Really interesting. I think this is our first break point.
Oh, okay.
On my list, on the left, I had Sophia Smith. So
Sure.
Also an NWSL Team of the Year, 12 goals, 6 assists in 19 matches played, leads Portland to the playoffs. And here's the important part. U.S. Women's National Team, 6 goals, 3 assists in 10 appearances, 3 goals, 2 assists in the Olympics. Part of Triple Espresso.
Yeah.
Obviously, and they take home the Olympic gold. And this is probably a great segue into who I've got on the right, which is Trinity Rodman.
There we go.
So Trinity leads the Spirit to the NWSL final. Career high in goal contributions. It's funny to say a career high. She's only 22 years old, but she does have 4 NWSL seasons under her belt. 8 goals, 6 assists in 23 matches played. Also in the NWSL Team of the Year. Olympic gold, same as Sophie Smith. 3 goals, 1 assist for Trinity. And she played in all but 53 minutes for the U.S. Women's National Team over those 6 matches. I want to talk real quick, though, about Triple Espresso.
Sure.
Bad Boy Pistons, Splash Brothers, Broad Street Bullies, Fab Five, Greatest Show on Turf. Triple Espresso, I think in the conversation, some people refer to them Triple Espresso. Some people call them Belle Biv de Gaulle. We're not going to litigate that here. But that is a historic nickname, I think, at the level of some of the greatest that we've ever seen.
It absolutely works. I like that they're the ones who put it forward, that it wasn't assigned to them, that they kind of took agency over it. And I think it works because they're 3 superlative talents, but they're 3 amazing individual talents whose skill set complement each other perfectly. So even like thinking about a Triple Espresso, I'm not a coffee drinker myself, but you think about being... Yeah, I'm a more of a water and beer guy. Trying to stay hydrated. Just looking at them play and the way that they can weave in and out, the way Rodman can provide service or she can cut it in and shoot, and the touch passes, the 1-2s that are possible with Smith and Swanson. I agree with you. It's an all-time sports nickname for an all-time position group in a sport that really matters to our country.
Absolutely, yeah. And 3 women of color as well.
Awesome.
From a branding expert, 10 out of 10. That's going to be something that in the annals of history, 100 years from now, and I don't know, maybe some AI is digesting this video and in the year 2125, that one's going to go down in the history books for sure. Okay, let's pick our 3 that are going to make our ITC top 11. I'm with you on Banda.
Sure.
With you on CGH.
Okay.
And it sounds like we both had Temois?
Yeah, I think Temois. I think she has to be the choice.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, boom, got it done.
All right, I love it. And now this is where things are going to get interesting in terms of how we view the way lineups are made, how the way we view these lists are going to be made. Because I have some thoughts on other places we can put players on the pitch for this best 11.
I like it. Let's save that for when we pick our 4 for the ITC 11. And I'm going to go first because you had the first pick in the forward room.
Let's go.
Give me the legend, Aitana Bonmatí, Ballon d'Or winner, best player in the world, wins everything, never loses. Didn't quite crush it in the Olympics, I'll say. Everywhere else, though, just monster year. You could even look back at the goal versus City. We talked about that one for, 7 or 8 minutes. That felt like a really long time. You can rewind back to the Champions League last year. She gets the 63rd minute winner versus Lyon, the 25th minute equalizer versus Chelsea away to basically carry them through. So she has the great moments in matches and within the run of play, but then also in the big, highest leverage moments, it does feel like she steps up, like she steps even higher up than we're used to kind of seeing her play. Like she's able to kind of like elevate even further.
The mind meld is in full effect. This calendar year in Liga F, she has 15 goals, 13 assists. She's obviously the 2024 Ballon d'Or winner. She is the leader, the most respected and the most revered best player on a squad full of best players in the world. I am so glad. The reason I say the mind meld is in full effect, I am so glad you mentioned the second leg of that Chelsea semifinal to make it to the final of the Champions League. Going back and looking at those highlights, going back and looking at our notes after we covered that match, they didn't get much out of Berayuelo or CGH in that match. But the best player on the field that day was Aitana Bonmatí, and she showed a class and quality that propelled them into the final. That's what great players do. And I think it's one of my favorite things in sports. We always remember the finals. You remember the championship games, but every great player has those moments in different rounds of knockout stages or different match days within a season that you can always look back to and say, that's why they're the best player in the world, because they may have won the title for us that day.
Yeah, 100%. And as a midfielder that does so much damage in the center of the park, to have these flashbulb moments on the breakaway, all the way upfield and just kind of like dazzling and dancing is just like really awesome. All right, so Aitana is in my midfield. You're up.
Okay, so she'll be one of our center midfielders, right? I think that would make sense. That's kind of where she plays.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take another center midfielder, and I'm going to take another center midfielder from Barcelona. I'm going to take Alexia Putellas.
Ooh, nice.
Aitana scored the winner in the final to beat Lyon in that 2-0 victory.
Mm-hmm.
Alexia had the moment of that match when she puts it away to push it to 2-0. She already has 8 goals and 5 assists this season. She's looking back to her dominant ways. She already has 3 Champions League goals to boot. To end the 23-24 season at the beginning of this calendar year, she added 6 goals and 7 assists. She is top 5 right now in Liga F in goals, assists, expected assisted goals, key passes, passes into the penalty. She's top 10 in goal creating actions and shot creating actions. I don't know, man. What do you want to say about Alexia Putellas? She's either the best midfielder in the world or the second best midfielder in the world. It just so happens that she's standing next to the contender for that title.
Yeah. I mean, she was way, way, way up on my list. Deadly, accurate passing, shooting, doesn't matter. She's just a force. The blast that she had to kind of beat Kiera Keating, had Kiera rooted to the spot. I mean, like, how many players can do that? You can do that. And then, you mentioned that moment, written in the stars, to quote our guy Sharples, Champions League final. All right, so I took Aitana, you took Alexia. Give me the GOAT from Orlando, won the double.
All right.
NWSL Team of the Year, led the NWSL in shot creating actions at 5.09 per 90. Marta, working on the statue here in Orlando. I haven't been able to confirm this, but I already know what's happening. I mean,
excellent.
You talk about great play, great moments, game winners, plays that propelled Orlando's season to the absolute finish line so that they're able to raise all these trophies. I don't know. A big deal gets made about Marta being 38 and, still being out there. But the reality is, she's still fucking bossing these games. Like, you could argue she had the moment of the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Where she beats the entire Kansas City Current and had the press box. I mean, she was melting faces in the press box with that moment. I mean, everybody lost their mind. It's a moment that I'm sure nobody that was witnessing will forget. I certainly won't forget it. I actually had her ahead of Alexia on my list. I thought what she did this season, the impact she had against that competition. We also can't forget the silver medal in the Olympics for Brazil.
Of course.
When Julia Belas-Trinidad came on our show and was like, hey, we want to make the knockout stage. So even exceeded expectations there. Obviously, that Brazil team had a lot of good performances from a lot of different players, but Marta may be the emotional centerpiece of that team. She's got to be in my midfield.
Yeah, I have no arguments there. I mean, I talked about Aitana Bonmatí being the most respected and revered player on a team full of star players. Bonmatí goes to sleep at night, I'm pretty sure, and hopes to be Marta one day. And Marta's still, like you said, she's still doing it at 38. She still looks absolutely phenomenal at 38. She's the cultural leader of a squad that won the double in the world's most competitive league. What else you got, man? I mean, she's there. 9 goals, 1 assist in league play. The numbers don't do her impact justice. And I want to do a little bit of a thing here. I had her on my second team, but I have my notes on it here. Okay, she got that kind of wild red card in the last group stage match against Spain in the Olympics. I'm going to now argue that even though she lost her composure and got that red card, I'm going to argue that the Brazilian team decided to rally there and say, no, we can't let that be Marta's last match. So I'm going to give Marta partial credit for Brazil rallying and still making it to the final so Marta could then rejoin the team and play. I would also say that Gabby Portillo had quite a bit to do with that, scoring the winner versus France in the quarters and then notching a goal and an assist to beat Spain in the semis. That's neither here nor there. But so, yeah, give Marta the credit for inspiring the team. Give Marta credit for inspiring a double winner in the NWSL.
The galvanizer. I love it. Okay, 4th pick. Who do you got?
So we have Marta, Bonmatí, and Alexia.
Mm-hmm.
You could legitimately play Bonmatí or Marta at left midfield. They'd be absolutely just fine out there. So if you're comfortable with it, I'm going to consider Marta on the left here. and then our two central midfielders being Bonmatí and Alexia. Now, I'm going to make a pick, and I'm going to... And then I want to have my discussion about positions because actually, no, I'm gonna call an audible.
Are we in the show, or are we? This is this the show? Sorry,
I think no, it's good. No, that's a fair question. So this is actually where I wanted to have some of my position discussions because to let people behind the curtain, on my first team, I had CGH on the right wing, and I put Trinity Rodman as my right midfielder because she could credibly play that position out on the wing on the right-hand side. Think about what the overlaps would look like between CGH and Rodman on that side. So I would like to at least open for discussion, and I'll make a real pick, but I'd like to open for discussion putting Trinity Rodman in this right midfielder spot. However, to make a pick that has not already been selected, I'm going to go to my second call here, and I can't wait for hopefully some of our pals yell at me about doing this. On the right-hand side, instead, I'm going to put Karidatu Diani because she can play forward and midfield as well because she is your classic wing player. To start the year across all comps in the first part of 2024, she had 9 goals and 4 assists. And she already has 9 goals and 9 assists in this campaign. So she's sitting on 18 goals, 13 assists. She's leading the Premier League in assists with 6. She's number 1 in expected assists, and she's number 1 in goal-creating actions. She's top 10 in shots on target, key passes into the penalty, and carries into the penalty area. She's 29 years old, and until further notice, she's one of the best players in the world and one of the most entertaining players in the world to watch. For me, I prefer to have her in my best 11.
I like it. I'll say I feel like it's could be a little bit of a cheat because I feel like she could play that position. I think the real question is like, has she played that position in 24? I think the same with Rodman. All right, so she's in your 11. And yeah, obviously a tremendous player. You know, we talked a lot about her assist to Van de Donk and just how mesmerizing the things she was doing with the ball is. And that's just another day at the office for Kari Diani for sure. She definitely made my short list, but that was on the forward side where we had a ton of players. I mean, a ton of players we didn't mention. Just to rewind a little bit, Katoto, Myra Ramirez, JRK, Lauren James, Kundanaji, Mal Swanson, another third of Triple Espresso. So many good players in contention there. But circling back to the midfield, I've got to go with Kira Walsh.
Great.
Maybe on some days, the best player on Barcelona, you know, even if it's tough to kind of see with the naked eye. You look at how many passes she completes in Liga F, 92% of her passes, you go, oh, well, that's Liga F. In the Champions League, 93%. Mm-hmm. she's even more accurate in the Champions League. She can get the ball from you. You can't get the ball from her. And basically, wherever she wants to go with the ball, that's where the ball is going, pretty much without fail, you know, minus the 6 or 7 times out of 100 where something goes awry. Every other time, Kira Walsh is getting it done, doing exactly what she wants to do, pretty much controlling the game, manipulating all the pieces on the chessboard. I love her game. I just think she's one of the best players in the world. She's got to be on this list.
No doubt. Genius defender. Hard to get a lot of shine when you're on the Barcelona team, especially with her style of play. But like you say, in big matches, in matches where there are stakes, it just always comes up where it's like, oh, there's Walsh again. She made another good play. She had another key interception. She pressured somebody into making a mistake. She's one of the reasons why, I think, as I said last time, when you care about the team playing against Barcelona, it looks like they have 13 players on the field compared to your 11. She's a big reason for that.
Totally.
Okay, so that's a central midfielder. So far in the midfield, you have Marta, Bonmatí, and Walsh. I have Alexia and Diani. And I do want to state for the record, our pals at FOTMob, they do list, and I obviously I'm aware of this, Diani, not so much as a midfielder. I know she plays back, though. I feel like she probably doesn't get credit for that. Rodman, though, credited for playing right midfielder with our pals at FOTMob. So I just want to keep that out there just for our general thinking. But I appreciate you leaving the lane open for me to pick another central midfielder here because Croy Bethune has to be in consideration here. And so she will be my pick. She's the midfielder. I figured as much. I figured we'd be linked up on this. She was the midfielder of the year and the rookie of the year. She was on the team of the year in the NWSL. She had 5 goals and 10 assists, setting the league record for assists. She missed 9 regular season matches and still set the record for most assists in a single season. She was on the path to challenge for the MVP of the league. I don't think it would not have been outrageous to expect in those 9 matches for her to maybe get up to somewhere like 8 goals and 15 assists at the pace that she was playing at. And I don't think she would have won the MVP, but she would have had to have been in the conversation. She led the league in through balls. She led the league in assists per 90, which was a staggering 0.65. Second in the league was Bia from Kansas City Current, who landed at 0.42. So a healthy margin between Bethune and Bia there. She was tied for first in goal creating actions. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I would like to say in the women's footballing podcast space, I own about as much Croy Bethune stock as anybody in the world. And if you're selling any, I'll buy even more because I think she will be one of the world's 5 best midfielders within a year or two after her recovery from her injury. And within 3 years, I believe she will be looked at as one of the 10 best players in the world.
Totally believe it. I think she would have had maybe the inside track on the MVP only because, well, Spirit finished second.
Sure.
So, and that was with a lot of injuries, in terms of like the chasing the shield, and then obviously they make the NWSL final. Could have very easily been flip-flopped if Bethune plays all season and maybe the injury gods are a little bit kinder to the Spirit. We also can't forget the production in high stakes moments for Bethune.
Huge.
She had some game winners. She had some game winning assists. I mean, she was making differences in multiple matches. So it wasn't just the counting stats. What she was doing was leading to points, was leading to victories. And I mean, this was all pre-Hidaldes. I think to your point, once she gets back and you get all those brains in one room, I think it's going to be real scary hours for the rest of the league. Definitely on my short list. I love the pick, Croy Bethune. And we did agree on a 3-4-3. So let's each make one more midfield pick here. I am going to take, this is tough. Damn, this is real tough. Well, I'm going to stick to my list, even though I got very tempted not to. Give me Mariona Caldente.
Nice.
Huge difference maker at Arsenal culturally. Like, this is one of those examples of somebody bringing winning culture, winning football IQ, winning habits into an organization that sorely needed them. And I think in a lot of ways, Caldente's leadership is really permeated out within that squad. They're playing so much better. But Mariona also played really well for Barcelona. We mentioned that she got lost a little bit there, but she was productive for Barcelona. They obviously lift the trophy. And then this season in the Champions League, she's already got 4 goals, 2 assists, which doubles her output from last year. And then she also scored in the Olympics for Spain in a somewhat underwhelming performance, but still made an impact there. Give me Mariona Caldente as my 4th midfielder.
Love it. I think that makes a lot of sense. You talk about the culture, you talk about the pedigree, you talk about just the blinding skill, creating something out of nothing. I think Mariona, obviously a worthy pick. Okay, I got one more. And I think if we're going like in the spirit of a 3-4-3, I think for your 4, you could credibly from left to right play Marta, Walsh, Bonmatí, and Mariona. So I have yet to pick a left midfielder. I am going to pick the Norwegian, Guro Reiten from Chelsea Football Club.
I like it.
She started this season on a tear, 6 goals already in league play. She's tied for second in the league. She had 7 goals and 7 assists to start 2024 in all competitions. A pair of assists across the 2 Ajax fixtures in last year's Champions League quarterfinals. 10 goals and 5 assists in all competitions so far this early season. So in total for the year 2024, I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, but she is at 17 goals, 12 assists in the calendar year. Very strong from a left midfielder. She had the 4-goal, 1-assist performance in that 8-0 victory over Bristol City at the end of the year to snatch the title away from Manchester City Football Club the same day they lost to Arsenal. Right now, in league play this year, she is top 5 in expected goals, key passes, passes into the penalty, crosses into the penalty area, expected assists, and progressive passes received. She is number 1 in shot creating actions. She is a Norwegian wonder and a genius passer who can also score the ball.
Love it. Love the pick. Some tough names on the cutting room floor here in the midfield. I really struggled. Caldente versus Melchi Dumornay, who I thought was unbelievable,
Sure.
is unbelievable. Good pass accuracy, great in terms of total passes connected. She's just, involved in everything offensively. She's got a fucking cannon. Like, she's just a great player to watch. Battery we didn't mention. Lindsay Horan, Manuel Giuliano, Georgia Stanway, I think all deserve mentions in the midfield. But yeah, tough exercise. But let's pick our 4 for our 3-4-3. So as a reminder, we've got Telmo, Benda, CGH up top. Can we Sharpie and Aitana here?
You have to.
Okay. That's one spot. I feel like, well, who's your next lock? Let's do it that way. So if Aitana's a lock, who has to be on from your list?
So here's the thing, is that we do not have a true, and you can tell me if this is just not important to you, if we're just picking midfielders. We don't have a true player on the right. Like, you could credibly play Mariona there. typically she is a central playing player. And then I think she'll slide over to the left occasionally. Same with Marta. Wrighton is exclusively, I think mostly exclusively, player who plays on the left. Walsh is a defensive holding midfielder. And Alexia and Croy Bethune are also more central players. I won't belabor this too much. I think you could credibly play Trinity Rodman at right midfield, and that would work, and she could do it. But if you want to say, hey, we drafted her in the forward room, let's leave her with the forwards, that is fine by me, because I realize we're also trying to get the representative. Well, we're doing a dance, right? We're trying to get the representative best 11. Your argument of how much do they really play there is pretty valid. I would say for U.S. women's national team, how many times did we see? It was almost like they were clearing out the midfield, and the interplay was between Fox and Rodman on that right-hand side. If this was 1998 and we were playing a 4-4-2, Rodman would play right midfielder because she has the athleticism, the athletic character to always get back on defense. Yeah, I'm rambling. What do you think? Make a ruling here on this one, boss man. I'm fine with it. I will posit Rodman, but if you say, hey, let's keep it to the midfielders we talked about, I'm fine with that too.
Well, let me spin it. Let me spin it back to you just really quickly. Yeah. Would you take Rodman over some of our options here? Alexia, Marta, Diani. I'm looking at our attacking options: Croy Bethune, Gora Wrighton, Mariona. I think there's a credible argument to say Rodman does make the list, even if slightly out of position. But she's on the right side, and I think to your point, she does cover so much ground. I mean, she goes way deeper than just the midfield.
Yeah.
So I think it's a yeah. I think we can go with Rodman there as long as you feel comfortable maybe bumping somebody down. Now, I will add one more lock to me, and I forgot to mention Yui Hasegawa. I'm surprised you didn't mention her as a City fan, as a City follower as well, just because, I mean, she's Manchester City, Kira Walsh, basically.
Yep.
But I think Kira Walsh, for me, has to be a lock. She's just so incredible. When you think about a deeper defensive midfielder starting the offense from back there, and then especially since we're in a 3-4-3, where she could drop a little bit, win the ball back, and then just kind of get things going, which is basically what she does for Barcelona. She's like, it's basically go time when she gets to it.
Yeah.
I think for me, Kira's got to be a lock, which then puts the onus on, is it Marta? Well, I don't know. Is it Marta, Alexia? I mean, there's what do we do there? Or how do you feel about Kira Walsh as a lock?
No, I love it. I think you're onto something here. I think she is somewhat of an unheralded player.
Well, let's herald her, damn it.
There we go. Consider her heralded now. She has made the ITC Best 11 as a lock. So, yeah, I think if you're playing a central midfield of Aitana Bonmatí and Kira Walsh, you're in great shape. And then if you have Trinity Rodman over on the right, you should feel great about that. So that leaves us with a left midfielder spot where we have Alexia, Croy Bethune, Marta, and Guro Wrighton. I am fine taking Diani out of the mix because Rodman was my best 11 right midfielder. Diani was my second best 11 right midfielder. And I do understand. Please yell at me. I know Diani doesn't explicitly play midfield, but she could. And Mariona, you could credibly play her on the left as well. So Marta, Wrighton, Alexia, Bethune, Mariona. Those are our options for the left.
Let me chime in here. Mariona, I'm okay saying she's like a second teamer for me.
Sure.
Croy Bethune also had the truncated season. So I think a second team makes sense there. You could make the Guro Wrighton has an outside case, I would say, but I think we're really talking about Alexia versus Marta.
I think you're right. I think I would. I mean, it pains me to say. I mean, you know how I feel about Alexia Putellas. Obviously, she's a 2-time Ballon d'Or winner. I think she's one of the 3 best players in the world. How many more of these can we give to Marta?
At least one more.
At least one more. I'm fine with going with your hometown Orlando Pride, and who you also argue is the best team in the world, where Alexia merely plays for the second best team in the world.
Sounds like a tiebreaker to me. There we go.
Just so everybody knows, that's at Dino the Channel on Twitter to yell at about Barcelona being the second best team in the world to Orlando Pride.
Come on, man. We got CGH, we got Aitana, Kira, Mariona makes a short list, Alexia makes a short list. We're giving them their proper due.
I love it.
Until it gets settled on the field, my opinion holds. Let's leave it there. All right, so we got our midfield. A couple quick hat tips as well to a couple of defensive midfielders that I want to mention. Sam Coffey, Aaron Cuthbert, ITC, Hall of Famer Aaron Cuthbert, so I can go.
Damn right.
We knocked it out. We got our forwards. We got our midfield. Let's go to the defense. As a reminder, we've only got 3 spots here.
Can I do a shout real quick for the midfield?
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
Momoko Tanakawa. From FC Rosengard, central midfielder in the Damallsvenskan, 16 goals, 3 assists, led the league in goals. Had her on my short list. for sure. You mentioned Manuela Giuliano. You could make a real credible argument that at worst she might be third team, depending on how deep we're going.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. I think she was in the top 30-ish, top 40 range, I think on
Yep.
both lists, the ESPN list and the Guardian list.
Yep.
And then you just see it on the field. She's just involved in everything, super creative, impossible to handle. You just hope she misses either the pass or whatever she tries to put on goal. So great shout there. Let's head to the back line. I think we're going to have very little overlap here on the back line. So I'm actually most excited for this conversation. And maybe that's why I kind of wanted to start here, but here we are.
That's interesting. Okay. Because I thought, well, yeah, okay. I can see that. I think we're going to agree on this one. Naomi Girma is the best center back in the world today. And I'm going to take her on this team. And I realize that did the San Diego Wave play well? That's not her fault. Let's just say there are a few things going on over in San Diego that weren't exactly conducive to a winning environment.
I don't know. I mean, I saw the Jill Ellis quotes. She said, nothing to see here.
Right.
Ho hum. I mean, a couple people on the internet. Mm-hmm. No, yeah. Point taken. Obviously, a tremendous player. Had a great year on that U.S. Women's National Team that crushed at the Olympics. Didn't make my first team, though. Incredible. In my spot. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just make a little bit of a case here. She played 600 minutes across the 6 Olympic matches, every minute of every match, because they went to extra time, 120 versus Japan in the quarters, versus Germany in the semifinals. That team only allowed 2 goals over the courses of that 6 matches. She is the primary reason why. In the league this season, she's number 2 in pass completion percentage. She's number 1 in percentage of dribblers tackled. She's number 3 in progressive carrying distance, and she's number 10 in clearances. I just find it difficult to argue that she's not the best center back in the world, and I feel like we're aligned on this, but I could also see the argument that you could be the best center back in the world, but maybe your calendar year of 2024 didn't prove that, or I don't know. I don't even know though, maybe this just wasn't her best year, but I still think just on general principle, I would have her as my starting center back.
I could definitely see where you're coming from. Obviously, maybe the best defender in the world. If you're starting a team, if you're playing tomorrow, like you got first pick, I mean, it's probably way, way, way up in terms of who you'd want out there. My first pick, and kind of like my starting center back, Emily Sams. To me,
look at you,
hands down, the biggest snub of Guardians Top 100. An absolute farce of a list for not having Emily Sams. NWSL Defender of the Year. She makes the Team of the Year. This team didn't concede goals in the NWSL. They just shut everything down. She is a maniac out there in the best way possible. She is a leader, not only on the defense, but just basically her voice, you could just kind of see it echo on the field. And she just gives everything. She's just so nasty. And I don't know, if we're looking at what a player was able to produce, the winning that came as a result of it, there's no way you could overlook a player like that, to me. And I think even versus Girma, because I kind of had that discussion in my head, I'm like, all right, who's 2024 would I rather have had? And I think for me, it's Emily Sams.
I love it. God, you crafty son of a bitch. No, that's so good. I mean, you said it when we talked about Defender of the Year on our NWSL award show. She's the best defender on the best defense in the world's most competitive league. I will continue to beat that drum every opportunity I get. I think it's difficult to argue that this is the most competitive women's football league in the world. And that defense was just taking their opponents out of every single game.
Totally.
Obviously, we talked about Marta and Banda and the scoring threat that they were able to create, but it started with the defense in Orlando. And so I just love this pick. I love that it can sound like a homer pick, but you have all the stats and data to back it up. So I'm saying, I'm not accusing you of making a homer pick. I love that it sounds like a homer pick, but your argument is like, oh, I guess it's just not that important to win the double in the world's toughest league.
Well, the double, make the Team of the Year, and you win Defender of the Year in the toughest league in the world.
There you go.
I don't know. What else could she do?
That's fair. I mean, the only other thing she could have done was be the second center back in a pairing with Girma to win the gold medal. Now, she didn't do that, but I love your argument too. Whose year would you rather have? Yes, you get that gold medal if you're Girma, but your club team is a disaster. And meanwhile, Sams and her defense are running things over in the NWSL.
Yeah, and Girma in some of those free agent rumor, transfer window. She's in some of those discussions. So who knows? Well, something to keep an eye on. All right, who do you got?
Man, I love that. I fucking love that pick so much out of you, buddy. That's great. Nice work.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so I'm gonna take Yeah, let's just do the thing. At left back, I'm going to take Olga Carmona. She is the
Ooh.
standard bearer for Real Madrid. If you told me that I was starting a club and I needed to start from left back, I would take Carmona. She started 25 out of her 27 appearances for club and country in 2024. She did not start in that bronze medal match versus Germany, which I thought was a wee bit disappointing. I don't think that was her decision. This year, she is top 10 in passes and crosses into the penalty, also progressive passes received. She's also top 10 in tackles won, and dribblers tackled. How do you want it? How would you like her to play today? That's how she'll play. And she'll be tough, and she'll be smart, and she'll be gritty, and she'll do absolutely everything that is required to win a football match. And if that is, I'm going to run forward and I'm going to take players on, I'm going to take opposing defenders on one-on-one, then I'll do that. Or if you need me to hang back and you need me to kind of captain the defense, I'll do that too. That's who she is as a player. I love her athletic character. I love the way she plays football. And I just think she absolutely raises Real Madrid's floor as they continue to add these other players. She raises the floor, no doubt. And then she contributes to that rising ceiling that club has as well.
That's such a great point, because if you're a big time player, I mean, obviously they've got great players there. Caicedo, Senior Bruno, Caroline Weir, like they're pretty loaded.
Yeah.
But there's something about Olga Carmona as like almost like the personality of the team.
Yes.
That gives you a sense of comfort coming into that locker room, coming onto that squad and being like, all right, I have somewhat of an understanding of what we want to do here. And it's because of Carmona. I totally agree with that. I was in a real philosophical battle at left back. Olga Carmona or Selma Basha. So
sure.
You look at Hoist Gracie, who has Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. You look at God Sham God, the creator of the Sham God. Selma Basha is the creator of Basha Ball.
Of course.
The art that is the perfectly floated in cross or free kick that looks like it was spit out by a computer. It's like the perfect speed, the perfect dip, the perfect trajectory, and just seems to find its mark. You'd be hard pressed to find a more important non-goalkeeper than Selma Basha, who doesn't score goals at all. Like, her last Premier League goal was December 2022.
Yeah, amazing. That's
awesome. And since then, she only has one Champions League goal in just over 2 years' time. And this is a player that is ranked number 50 on the Guardian's Top 100 and number 31 on ESPN. She's ahead of Carmona on ESPN. She's a little bit behind on the Guardian's list.
Sure.
So, it's pretty much neck and neck. But I definitely am a purveyor of the Basha Ball style. For me, I love Olga Carmona. I think her game sometimes can feel a little rushed, a little frantic.
Sure.
And I think that's like the tiniest knock on her for me, because she could make every pass. She could do anything. She could do everything. And sometimes it's just a little too hot for my taste, I would say. But Basha, I think like her style is perfect for that Lyon side. They've got those killers up front. And as long as she's distributing, as soon as she gets back, I think we're going to see her impact. I think she had a great 2024.
Yeah.
Leeds Lyon had a ton of influence on that team getting to the Champions League final, winning the Premier League in France, D1 Arkema, Division 1 Féminine, whatever they go by these days.
Sure.
So my left back officially was Basha, but I did want to call attention to that really tough push and pull between those two players, Basha and Carmona.
Yeah, and I think that's totally reasonable. I mean, I was looking at Basha too, and I think part of the tiebreaker is, and it sucks, but Basha's wasn't available at the beginning of this season.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of what pushed me over the edge on Carmona. But I mean, ever since you and I really started talking women's football back in the 23 World Cup, I mean, she's just been one of my absolute favorite footballers to watch, and she backs it up on the field. So, I mean, I'm with you, though. Basha Ball, can't fuck with it. It's absolutely wonderful. She's a genius passer. She's absolutely vital to what Lyon does. So, I mean, we're splitting hairs here for sure. I'm gonna crack this beer in celebration of two amazing left backs, by the way.
I like it. Let's go.
Phenomenal footballers.
All right. So, who's up? You're up.
Oh, yeah. I guess that would kick it back to me for right back. So, I am going to go with, this was another one where I felt like I was splitting hairs between two players. And it's funny because they play on the same team now. So I am going to I ended up taking Ashley Lawrence in my first team. And that is because she is a stalwart of Chelsea's defense. To start the calendar year, she played the full 90 in something like 12 or 13 of the 20 matches she appeared in. She injects a level of intelligence and pace wherever she is on the field. She's one of the main reasons that Chelsea can go from causing a turnover deep in their own defensive third to then celebrating a goal in the blink of an eye. And I'm going to do another little Olympics thing here. Ashley Lawrence played every second of every match for Team Canada in the Olympics. You might have heard they ran into a wee bit of trouble with the Olympic Committee and just rule followers in general. Eventually lost in the quarterfinals to Germany in PKs after 120 minutes, couldn't settle things. And if memory serves, Canada really needed some steadying forces on that squad. And I'm going to go out on a limb and think that one of their absolute best players, Ashley Lawrence, had quite a bit to do in that. You could drop her, Canada does, drop her on any part of the field at any time, whether it's an attacking player or a defensive player, that player in the midfield. And she goes a long way as a settling force of a wonderful player who makes good decisions. And when she plays right back, which is, admittedly less often now for Chelsea Football Club, now that Lucy Bronze has been introduced into the lineup, I still want to give her credit for this 2024 being a fantastic year for her.
Yeah, great call out. I mentioned at the top of this segment that I thought there'd be a little bit of a dissension here in the defense. Ashley Lawrence, who I love, you already know I'm one of the biggest Lawrence fans there is.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally co-signed the Canada success story. I mean, you remember they got docked those points and they needed to win all three just to make it through, which they did. Shout out to them.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't make my top three right backs. Interesting.
Wow,
enough.
okay.
I looked at Lucy Bronze. I mean, just winner through and through. All she does is win. Lucy, big game bronze. You already know what time it is. Emily Fox, Olympic gold, force of nature for Arsenal. It's just, there's not that many players better than her at what she does. And then you got to look to Barcelona, Ona Batier, who moved to the right side to replace Lucy Bronze. Obviously, you could look at, all right, well, where do we put her? But those were my short list players. But for my third defender, I know this throws it a little out of whack, but I've got Basha, who's a little slight, likes to play upfield a little bit. So I think I kind of need a little bit of a heavy hitter in my back three. And I'm going to take one of Ashley Lawrence's teammates, Vanessa Gilles, part of that monster Lyon defense. To me, she's every bit as important as Wendy Renard for that team. 2 goals in the Olympics. She's scoring for Lyon. She played all but 5 minutes for Canada in that Olympics. So, I mean, involved in everything that they were doing there defensively. That's my third pick there, Vanessa Gilles, to round out my back line.
Yeah, great pick. I mean, she is a massive threat on set pieces. She's able to play a physical style down near the goal when in her own defensive 18. Can't argue with that. And we've talked about, too, she's just improved. 2024 was just a year that didn't start off great for her. She had a couple uneasy moments in the Champions League and then I think it was the CONCACAF W Gold Cup. But she bounced back seriously from that. So I think that is an interesting pick. You're making my eye twitch a little bit because I feel like you're kind of disregarding the who plays right back, who plays left back, who plays center back. But I will say that our pals at FOTMob, they do say that Emily Sams has gotten time at both center back and right back. I don't know how you feel about that because
written in the stars.
So, I wasn't sure how you'd feel about it, but I think it makes sense. If we wanted to shift her over, you could essentially shift Sams over to right back, and then we just have a conversation between Gilles and Germa at center back in our 3-back lineup here. Let's do the thing. Who do you feel most strongly about?
I think once you scrub, those couple funky moments from Vanessa Gilles, I think you can kind of make the case that she had a better 2024 also than Germa.
Mm-hmm.
And with Germa, you can't argue with what she does on the field.
Right.
But you do wonder how could things have gone so wrong in San Diego? And obviously maybe it's a totally toxic environment and it was DOA, like who knows? But I kind of wish that there were more, I don't know, moments or big wins, or it felt like that Wave team did nothing like all season. Like they just were almost a total no-show. So for me, it's tough. I mean, obviously Naomi Germa was on my second team for me. But I don't know. Am I crazy for kind of thinking that Gilles maybe slight edge over Germa, or am I kind of being a little too harsh because of the team's success or lack thereof?
It's definitely an interesting question. I mean, Gilles, she starts the first half of the calendar year. She plays for a team that's being coached by Sonia Bonpastor, and they're Lyon. And then we saw what happened with San Diego Wave this year. I realize, and I say this a lot of times, like when people talk about college football or professional football, and they compare quarterbacks, and they say, well, he beat him head to head. And I say, well, were they playing tennis out there. Like it wasn't one guy versus the other guy. So I understand I'm probably doing a little bit of a fallacy here, but I mean, USA had 2 pretty impressive wins over Canada in the CONCACAF W Gold Cup and the She Believes Cup. Now, those went down to the absolute wire. Gio had that bad mistake in one of those matches.
Which was a function of like the monsoon.
The terrible field, the terrible field conditions. Yeah. That's absolutely worth pointing out. I'm glad you mentioned that. If we're talking about trophies, so Lyon wins the league, they win their League Cup, they win their playoffs, they win their final. So Gilles essentially is walking away with a treble and a Champions League final appearance, even though they lost. And Germa's walking away with a gold medal, but nothing else. And I think made second team all NWSL. I don't think Germa made team of the year, if I am remembering correctly.
I don't think so either.
So, man.
Let me just check that real quick.
Quick fact check.
Yep. Germa did not make the team of the year in the NWSL. I mean, it's Casey Kruger, Sams, Kaylee Kurtz, Jenna Neiswanger.
Okay. So this is...
Trinity Rodman, as listed as a midfielder. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Come on, man.
Discussion over. Shout out to
you. We're out here. We know stuff. We watch the games, bro. Okay. There is just another part of my brain, and this is a part of my brain I shouldn't listen to that often. So I feel like we've circled around this, and I think you've kind of talked me into it. There is a part of me that doesn't want to release a best 11 that doesn't have Naomi Germa in it, but I think you've convinced me. I think Gilles has the hardware this year in the year 2024. Does it mean that I think, or that we think even, Vanessa Gilles is a better player than Naomi Germa? I don't think so. I certainly don't think so.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Alexia's not in our best 11. You know, she's certainly one of the best 11 players in the world. I mean,
she has to be. Yeah.
You know, like it's not really the discussion that we're having. It's semantics, really, but I feel like I could have been talked into Germa, but I think honestly it's weird. But the NWSL Team of the Year, her not being listed there, I think says a lot. Because we're talking about our global best 11. She didn't make the domestic 11, so I feel comfortable with Gilles. She was my second ranked defender coming into this exercise.
Okay, I'm in. So Gilles will be our center back. We'll play Emily Sams at right back. I think Olga's availability really matters. I think her being the talisman of Real Madrid, and then them making a big jump from their Champions League performance last year into this year. Yes, they added players, but those players get added into Olga Carmona's culture at Real Madrid.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, I know I'm stumping for my own pick. Do you think Basha's case is that much better than Olga? Where do you land?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the availability point's a major one.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've seen Basha.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that 2025 can't be awesome. It doesn't mean that she didn't have awesome moments in 2024. No small feat to get on our second team. I feel so dumb saying that. Our little podcast. But let's go with Olga. Defensively, we've got Olga Carmona, Emily Sams, Vanessa Gilles.
Love it.
Rounding at the back line. I think that's pretty solid. Wanted to mention a couple players here. Glodis Perla-Vegas Dotier. Got to get a mention.
Got to.
Irene Paredes. Just a champion through and through. Julia Gvin. I had a real tough time leaving her off my two teams. Tarsiane had a great year. I'm going to go a little homer here and give a little shine to Kylie Strom from the Orlando Pride. Emily Sams, running mate, who was also really excellent, played a ton of minutes this year. And while we're here, shout out to ITC Hall of Famer Corey Dyke. First NWSLer to join us on the show. Didn't make my list, but obviously we love you, Corey.
Yeah, I was looking for ways to be like, okay, how can I get Corey onto this list? I mean, she had a great year, man. I mean, once she gets into the starting lineup, she just took the baton and ran with it. Just a phenomenal player. I had Irene Paredes on my third team. 33 years old, doesn't look slow, absolute stalwart back there at center back. I talked about Lucy Bronze. Monster performance in the Champions League final that helped them win that Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
Also had a goal and I think an assist in that 4-4 draw versus Benfica. That was just another big-time performance. Final match of the group stage. At 33 years old, Bronze remains reliable. She has 9 matches for Chelsea in the WSL. She's played the full 90 in 7 of those. She's played the full 90 in 3 of the 4 Champions League matches that she's played in. I understand that this is a bit of like just recency bias, but in the context of Lucy Bronze, in that 1-1 draw versus Leicester, where the team just looks completely lost at sea in the first half, she was the best player on the field for Chelsea in that entire match. And that's just
Yeah.
because you can set your watch to a good Lucy Bronze performance, especially when she looks around and sees, hey, my teammates aren't getting it done today. Looks like I'm going to have to be the one to carry this. That's just what kind of player she is.
That's such
Go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. That's such an underrated skill. And I'm
is.
glad you called it out, because it's like when that team was looking middling,
Mhm.
or when Chelsea is kind of like looking a little, sluggish, coffee hasn't kicked in yet. It just always seems like it's Lucy Bronze doing something wild, like,
Yep.
going from right to left, from back to front. And she's just dropping little ingredients into the match. She's so good at doing that. Like, some players will fall into the background when things aren't going well. She basically catapults way into the foreground in those moments. She's like, no. And now I'm going to get some camera time here. I mean, she's so good in those moments. What a player to have on your team.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe her. And you can tell that's her personality type, and that's why people rally around her. I also had Wendy Renard on this list. Looking at her compared to Vanessa Gilles, looking at her compared to Germa and Sams, I mean, she scores goals. She remains an elite threat on set pieces. She is still one of the better players in the world. I look at her kind of like a LeBron James in the sense of you're just like at the end of your prime at this point, which still makes you one of the better players in the world. Everybody, clearly reveres and respects her every time they're within her presence. That's just who she is as a player. So I don't think we can do this without mentioning her. And then I just want to shout out Kirsten Kasperai at right back for Manchester City Football Club. Completely reliable, plays all the time, plays the full 90 all the time, makes good decisions, is tough, still a young player kind of coming into her own. Would not be surprised if in future best 11s, Kirsten Kasperai starts to creep her way into our second team and possibly eventually the first team.
I like it. Yeah, and thinking about City, definitely get well soon. Alex Greenwood.
Yep.
Let's shift gears to goalkeeper. I guess I got first pick here.
Go ahead, my man.
Give me the legend.
It's got to be.
Cue the Star Spangled Banner. Just the American flag floating in the wind. I don't know. For football's sake, I think I'm okay still, wrapping myself in the flag. Olympic gold for Alyssa. Wins a W Gold Cup. Wins She Believes. Goes out with a couple nice performances across the pond. Some epic penalty kick moments, both on the offense and the defensive side of the penalty kick proceedings. Just a great player. You can kind of ding her a little bit. And I'll be interested to hear who you had at goalkeeper and if it's the same as who I had to round out my top two. I kind of shuffled back between these two players for sure in preparation for this exercise. But yeah, give me a listen there.
Yeah, I think she's the logical choice. I mean, club form is always a little interesting for goalkeepers. Chicago was in the mix. They make the playoffs. She had a dreadful year in 2023. She got to bounce back. Obviously, part of that was an improved defense and improved culture over at Chicago Red Stars, not the Chicago Stars, I believe. We'll cover that in the NWSL episode. But Alyssa Nair, she shows up in those big matches. She makes important saves when she has to, and if she needs to score penalty kicks for you, she'll do that on top of blocking the opponent's penalty kicks. She was my first team goalkeeper as well. She walks away from her historic career with a gold medal, marches into retirement, well-deserved. My second goalkeeper, and I'm with you, I was bouncing between four goalkeepers here. It's just hard to make the decision. So I am going to take for the year 2024. Give me, I have my second team goalkeeper. And I still almost am bouncing between. Just give me Katakoi. She wins the quadruple for Barcelona. She wins the League Cup, she wins Copa de la Reina, she wins Liga F, she wins the Champions League. She is reliable back there. It's not all Barcelona's defense. She makes important saves when she has to.
Yeah.
She has great diving ability. I think it can be easy. We've had this conversation. For great teams, it can be easy to underrate a very good to great goalkeeper sitting behind those 10 players. If we're looking at a player who has 4 trophies, and I know Spain was a little underwhelming, and I know Katakoi made a couple questionable decisions during those Olympics, you won a quadruple this season. So I'm going to give it to her, but man, it was close. I had two other goalkeepers in mind. I'm curious if they're the two that you're thinking of.
Well, I'll tell you, I love the Katakoi pick because obviously you can't argue with the results. She is a great shot stopper.
Yes.
And she has great instincts. She's very rarely in the wrong place. I can't knock that pick at all. My second goalkeeper, Ann-Katrin Berger.
Yes.
I mean, changed Gotham upon arrival, pretty much just like Banda. Like the minute she steps off the plane, like I think changes the fortunes of that team, carries them to the semis of the NWSL playoffs, Olympic bronze medal as well. Had a similar type performance, bearing a penalty kick and making huge saves in the Olympics. Just a great year for that player. And I had two more on my short list. I had Katakoi on my short list. I'm curious to hear who else you had at goalkeeper.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Ann-Katrin Berger. She was the person in absolute contention for my second team, even my first team. Like you said, bronze medal at the Olympics, 8 clean sheets walking into Gotham FC, 81% save percentage, immediately changed things. I think you will appreciate this. We talked about the best team in the best league, the English lass herself, the Lioness, Anna Morehouse.
Let's go.
I think she had 12 clean sheets in NWSL this year. Her clean sheet percentage was 48%, good for first in the league. Alma Schultz, who came into Kansas City Current, who was a great goalkeeping addition for them. She only played 9 matches, so I think her clean sheet percentage was a little higher than Morehouse, but in significantly fewer matches. I think she only played 9 matches for Kansas City. Please, in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But Morehouse, great size, great shot stopping ability, great instincts, and is the goalkeeper for the team that won the double in the most competitive league in the world.
Yep. Definitely made my short list. Also had Christiane Endler as well. Yep. I think we both had Nair first. So that's our starting goalkeeper, right?
100%. The Olympics and then the iconic moments of burying penalties, even though, we're not pretending like she believes in the CONCACAF W Gold Cup are like massive tournaments. Although I will argue in favor of the CONCACAF W Gold Cup because there are good teams in that tournament and it was very competitive play. But just her performances in those matches that clearly mattered to both sides, it's hard to argue about her impact this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you could look at She Believes in the Gold Cup as real precursors to the Olympics to kind of like springboard them to that gold medal. So can't take anything away from those performances. I want to do a quick recap of our ITC starting 11. So we've got Temo Chawinga, Barbara Banda, Caroline Graham Hansen, Aitana Bonmatí, Marta, Kira Walsh, Trinity Rodman. And then in the back, we've got Olga Carmona, Vanessa Gilles, Emily Sams, and Alyssa Nair in goal.
It's a pretty good 11, buddy. I think we've done something here.
I'm going to spring something on you right now. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
We've got our 11. Who is your manager of the year? Now, I'm going to put forth 3 names that I want you to chew on a little bit.
Sure.
We've got Emma Hayes, Chelsea, U.S. Women's National Team, got to be in the mix.
Sure.
Seb Hines, NWSL, wins everything, raises the shield undefeated. No team had ever won the double in the NWSL. Just start there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Or Jonathan Hidaldes takes the Spirit to the final, second place finish in the NWSL, and that's after leading Barcelona to winning every single trophy imaginable. Of those 3, and feel free to throw somebody else in there, but I feel like those are maybe the gold, silver, bronze. Who would you want calling the shots for the ITC starting 11 of those 3?
I mean, you obviously could not go wrong with any of the 3, but I was going to go to it, and I was hoping to sound very clever, but it's pretty common knowledge, and you alluded to it before. There is something to the fact that Jonathan Hidaldes wins the quadruple at Barcelona, then shows up in Washington and helps lead the team to the NWSL championship, even with the injury issues that they had. And it's rare. And obviously Seb Hines didn't have the opportunity to kind of do that. And Emma Hayes, she had a little bit of that in the sense of, Chelsea wins the league. They don't win the FA Cup though. And they don't win the Champions League, but then she comes and helps USA win a gold medal. She has some like intercontinental championship vibes herself, but I'm going to give the edge to Hidaldes because what a year that is to take home all those trophies in Spain, and then you just come over to America and you come this close to not only, winning the NWSL championship, but they were in shouting distance of the Shield for a long stretch of the season.
Love it. Very cool story, bro. All right, so I'm going to pencil in Seb Hines here.
There we go. Yeah.
ITC.
That's fine. No, that's totally fine. He won the double in the world's most competitive league. That's totally fine.
No. I'm just joking. I'm really.
It's nicely done.
I'm really like, I'm in a mental game of rock, paper, scissors between these three, to be honest. Because you really cannot go wrong with either of the three. If you think it's Giralda's, interestingly enough, I typed in Giralda's first of the three names in my little Google Doc here. I'm not sure if that means something or if, my finger was just close to the J on my keyboard. But I think I might agree with you. I think what he did at Barcelona, and to be able to just get dropped in, taking that team to the final. And I think I was pretty loud about saying, hey, I think Orlando KC is the final.
Right.
I think these are the two best teams. I was proven very wrong. Like once the final came to pass, obviously the final is a final. It's tough. It's tense, but they played their ass off. They were really, really tough to contend with. And it's, when you start to think about, okay, what is this team going to look like once he has a full training camp, a full year, like a really chance to build relationships, to build chemistry, pretty scary. I think I can go along with Giralda's pick as the manager of the year.
Okay, and it's no disrespect to Seb Hines because I realized I made the case. And, obviously we got Emma Hayes in this mix too. So you just can't go wrong. I wouldn't argue any of the three. Yeah, Hines is such a beast too. And you already know what time it is with Emma Hayes on a short timeline going into the Olympics, a grinded out tournament. The
18-player roster. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and the immediate respect and cachet that she had with all those players. Like, she's doing a press conference after they win the gold medal, and she talks about the importance of Lindsey Horan. Lindsey Horan, who, again, we always say we don't know these people. She doesn't strike me as an overly emotional person. But Emma Hayes talks about Lindsey Horan, and Lindsey Horan is crying at the press conference. These women have known each other for like a matter of months. Like, and Emma Hayes immediately has this impact on them. So yeah, I think it's Giralda's by a nose.
Love it. Okay. I think we did it. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
No, man. I think we safely can say we have the single greatest best 11 of any women's football podcast out there, especially hosted by two bros. You already know what time it is. We've dominated that category. I'd put our best 11 up against any other podcast.
I love it. The ITC bestest 11. I think we did it. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for watching, listening, following, liking, subscribing, commenting, just plain hanging out with your boys. And we want to hear from you. Let us know what we got right. Let us know what we got wrong. Shout out to our guys, MLS Architect, Justin, and our girl, CTX. Let's fucking go. The comments were on fire last week. We didn't get a chance to get back to everybody, but a lot of good vibes. So we appreciate all of that. Remember to like if you liked, subscribe or follow Into the Channel, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over at your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grand Angle, for, I'm not going to hold it against you. Maybe you got me this year. Maybe you didn't. But they don't make a Sharpie big enough for me to pencil your name into my ITC personal record book. So I appreciate you, bro. Couldn't do it without you.
Likewise, buddy. Thank you for humoring me and thank you for working more as a team this year so you didn't embarrass me once again and have our pals vote on who had the best team. I liked my chances, but I wasn't super confident. Let's just say that. But thank you to everybody, like Dino said, for chiming in, dropping knowledge in the comments. We always appreciate you all. Thank you for rocking with us this year, and we will see you all next time.